Oh, Cory. My only brother. This is a hard time, guys. And I'm just here to tell you about my brother. He was the kindest, the closest, the happiest person ever, any person can ever imagine. I knew my brother, and I've been with my brother ever since he was born, every day of his life. I know everything about my brother. But to see this happen is very tragic, because we know that he would not ever pull a gun on a police. Never. This is not like him, and we need answers, and we will get them with the community and the people that feels our pain. This is when I started my career in the NFL, I played 7 seasons. I took my brother with me everywhere, every team I went. So all I can say is, oh my God, all lives matter. This is not a black thing. My brother didn't see color. I didn't see color. As you can see, my wife, where's my wife? My wife is white. We don't see color. We never was raised to see color. So black lives, no disrespect about Black Lives Matter. It's all lives matter. And my brother had plenty of friends, white friends, Asian friends. It didn't matter. So with all that said is, I'm glad, and I need your support, and we need your support and your endorsement, and I'm just thinking, and whatever you can do to help us, just give it to us, please. We need the answers, please. We need it. Thank you.
Now you will hear from his younger sister, Melissa Jones.
My brother Cory, he's always loved drums. Ever since I can remember, him and CJ would race to the church doors to see who was going to play the first time in service on that actual day. My mom would allow them to race to the door. They'll push, shove, whatever they had to do to get to those drums. My brother CJ was the one that really helped him to start off and playing these drums. Cory would even be at the house. He would make drums out of books, pans. It didn't matter. He made some drums. That's all he wanted to do, countless hours. He played the drums. Even when we sat at the kitchen table, we played the drums with our knuckles. That's all he wanted to do, was play the drums. He felt some type of vibration, I know, within his spirit. I know he did. He had a gift like no other. My brother, he was all for protection. He even told me, as a braider, a licensed braider, to have protection. Get a gun, sis, if you need a gun. Make sure that you have your permits. He made sure of that because my brother was responsible. So for him to have a gun was for his protection. And anything else that has come up from his past has answers. And it was not from him. My brother, he made sure, from his sister being all the way in Tallahassee, had some form of protection. And made sure she had responsibility behind that protection. That's the only thing he could do with his sister being 6 hours away. My brother was just, he was the person that could bring the softest part of the hardest person. He could bring that part out of you. It don't matter how hard you work. Times I didn't want to laugh, I didn't want to smile. My brother would be the one, he would know what to say to me. To make me just smile, he knew what to say. He knew what to do. Random text messages when I was down. He knew. It was a God-given gift. He knew. He can feel from afar. He knew. Thank you.
You will hear from his father, Mr. Clinton Jones Sr., Reverend Clinton Jones Sr.
This is a difficult time for me as a father to lose a son. And really what makes it really difficult is that on this week I have to bury my mother also. So this is really trying times. Not only to lose a son, but to lose a mother also. I raised my children to be respectable and to respect law. I always tell them to stay humble, because if you stay humble, God will exhort you. And that was my motto to my children. All of them carried that with them. And when I heard about my son, me and my wife, we was over in Jamaica trying to have some downtime, trying to get our emotions and our feelings in check before we come back home and bury our mother. And while we was over there trying to enjoy ourselves, we received a call from our eldest son that my son had got shot. Can you imagine what was going through my mind? He got shot. Is he alive? Is he all right? And I called my daughter and she was crying and she told me that Cory is gone. Cory is dead. So today, I need some answers. I need to know why is my son gone today? Why?
Obviously it's emotional. We want to try to take a few questions as much as we can. Before we do that, I guess maybe we can clear up some of the obvious things. He had a license, permit for his gun. He had a concealed weapons permit, as his sister and his brother both have said when questioned about the gun from the authorities and different people. Their brother would travel, playing in different concerts, different venues. He would have a lot of expensive drum equipment. He would have money from those concerts and so forth. And so he thought it was proper and appropriate for him to get protection. And that's the reason why a couple years ago he went and made sure he did everything appropriately to get his proper paperwork to have protection, as any American has the right to do under the Second Amendment. His sister tells it best when he came and visited her and said, "You doing all these, letting all these people come into your house braiding their hair, and you're dealing with money." Says you should get a gun too for protection, and you should get all your paperwork on your gun. You should make sure you have protection, having people come into your house knowing that they're paying you in cash. And so it was very clear to us that when the police officers put out about a gun, that everybody had these questions about whether he was properly authorized, was he licensed, did he have a concealed carry weapon. So we want to answer those questions completely for you on that. Also, just to make the point home, this family, as they said, they extremely close. They talk constantly. What was so telling, when his big brother went to the NFL, to the Cleveland Browns, Cory went to the University of Akron just to be close to his brother. That's the bond they had. And it's only fitting that one of the last calls he made was to his big brother, because they always checked on each other. They always took care of each other. And CJ is beating himself up, saying, "I should have went and got him that night. He'll still be alive." And so it's so emotional on so many levels. But the one thing that remains unanswered is why this plainclothes cop in an unmarked van would have this encounter with Cory, who was waiting on the tow truck, and he ended up dead with 3 bullets in his body. It makes no sense.
Mr. Trump, did anyone explain what actually happened? That the kind of what the officer said happened? He arrived, he got out of the vehicle. Did they explain?
The state attorney's office was very limited as to what they could say. They made it clear that the officer did give a statement that night. That statement is recorded. They didn't share that recording with us. They obviously told us, and it's just the officer's version. And they're very cautious because they still have to match it to forensic evidence. As of now, you have one account of what happened and none of the other forensic evidence that may exist in the case. There are a lot of questions in this case that have to be answered. For example, what happened at the car? But as we now know, his body was not found at the car. The gun was not found at the car. The gun was not found next to Cory. So those are answers and questions that have to be answered to match the forensic evidence with whatever the officer said. Now, the tragic part of this case is that we can't get Cory's version. But what we do know about Cory is who he was. We know about the interaction with his co-worker. We know about his demeanor. We know how he was acting on that day. Those are all the things that we do know. But probably most importantly, though, we know that this officer was in plain clothes. We know that he had no badge to display to Cory. Cory had no way of knowing who he was.
And especially with, as we understand, going on here in South Florida, where people impersonating cops, 3 a.m. in the morning, unmarked white van with tinted windows roll up on you, a person wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and a baseball cap come up and don't give you a badge, don't do anything. How do you react to that? What is the policy so the people in South Florida would understand that if you ever approached by uniformed cop, how do we really know he's a cop? Isn't it the burden on the cop to make sure that the citizen knows that he is a real cop, so Cory won't feel like he's about to be mugged, or he's about to be robbed, or he's about to be killed on the side of the road at 3 in the morning? I mean, this is troubling on so many levels.
And he never fired his weapon.
Cory never fired his weapon.
Where was the gun found in relation to the...
And him as well.
He was found approximately 80 to 100 feet away from his car.
And the gun?
And they don't know how far the gun was found, but it was somewhere
they have
in between.
They have a picture of it.
Yeah, but the state attorney couldn't give us that information.
And have you gotten any preliminary autopsy report? I mean, has the family seen their son?
They did go to the funeral home to view the body, but they have no preliminary autopsy report. Yes, sir.
Somewhere between the body and the car.
Yes. And Cory at some point was running away.
Did the state attorney say whether the officer could face charges?
Any evidence that he was shot in the back?
No evidence of him being shot in the back.
The 3 times you don't know. They didn't tell you where.
Yet, but we know there were 3 shots that hit him, and Cory was running away at one point. So it is so many questions that have to be answered that it makes no sense to the family. I think Melissa and her sister, they said it just makes no sense because they know Cory.
Let's clarify one issue. There are 3 shots that hit his body, but there are entrance and exit wounds from some of those shots. So there may be.
Where are
there
they?
There may be 5 shots altogether.
And the
5 or 6.
autopsy report.
Wait, 5 or 6.
5.
5. Not 6.
5 holes in his body.
Right,
and you'll find out when the autopsy comes out where those are at. We only got limited information, and we're sharing with you the limited information we got because the family had these questions. The state attorney was gracious enough to give them some information because nobody had told them anything to this point about even how many times he had been shot, how many times the officer had fired. And so we do want the answers to come out to these very, very just tough questions. I mean, it makes no sense.
So how many times was he shot? 5 or
3 times, 5 holes in his body. There was some, as Attorney Park said, some entrance and exit wounds. Yes.
We don't know where those shots are. Where
The family knows they hit his body, hit his arm. One of them broke his arm. But the preliminary autopsy hasn't come out. They gave this information to the family based on what they know, and the family is extremely appreciative that the state attorney at least gave them some information because to this point they had gotten no information.
Now, we will say this, though. The most fatal of the bullets is one bullet that came in his side and went through his aorta and lodged up in the upper part of his torso. So that was the bullet.
The officer has his lights on?
His sirens? No.
No lights?
No
Lights
they
on the
had
car.
no
What
lights
did you
on
say
the
about
van.
the torso?
The bullet came up and lodged through. It went through his aorta and lodged in the upper part of his body.
So he was shot in the side.
Which draws a lot of questions, really. So
Shot in the side, yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, can you describe the moments that were told to you when he was running away? And also when you say he didn't have a badge, did he not show a badge or did he not have a badge anywhere?
He never displayed a badge to Cory.
Okay. And then the moments when he was running away?
You know, they having to depend on the officer's version, and so they couldn't confirm independently any of this other than what they said was told to them by one source only, and that was at some point Cory was running away and his body was found 80 to 100 feet away from where they initially met at that car.
How do we know no badge was displayed?
Again, we're relying only on the version of one person. And so that's what the state attorney reported, that it was only that version that they had.
The state attorney told you that he did not
Told the family that, yes. So we believe Cory went to his grave not knowing whether this was a real cop or not, if we don't know anything what Cory would have known other than what the person who shot him tells us. And so the family refuses to accept the person who shot their Cory word alone.
What do you want to see happen to this officer?
Well, we want the truth to come out. They want answers. They want justice. And if he did improper things, if he used excessive force, you want him to be held accountable to the full measure of the law, because they know Cory did not deserve to be killed on the side of a road by somebody who was supposed to protect and serve him while he waited on the tow truck.
Did he tell dispatchers that he was stopping?
They can't confirm that information.
What do you say to people who are drawing comparisons to this case, between this case and the Trayvon Martin case, about the officer placing himself in a position to argue self-defense?
Well, what's very interesting is that, as his brother and sister said, how he talked about you have a right to have a gun for protection. That's your Second Amendment rights as an American citizen. Or people are going to come and support Cory's right to have his gun and protect himself. Or are they going to simply say that's not a convenient argument because it was Cory Jones? We have to make sure that we say all Americans have all the rights that all Americans have. And as CJ said, Cory really was involved in all communities. He was involved with multiple people. His bandmates were white, black, Hispanic, Asian. He was loved by all people. I know he was a big fan of Questlove, the drummer. He was always trying to say that drummers, we connect on a different level. You know, we connect with people through our music, all people. And so that was a big thing his family talked about. His family even, I know they have a GoFundMe page and a lot of people are giving to try to help out with the homecoming services. But what they want to do in the true spirit of Cory is to have a music scholarship set up for some of those children he was trying to teach music here in South Florida, because as his father and everybody continues to say now, we have to keep the beat alive for Cory Jones.
Did the officers say how close they got or if they exchanged words or anything?
We don't know that information.
Did Cory have a phone that he left on or anything like that?
Cory did have a phone because he talked to his
Was
brother.
it left on?
We don't have it in our possession.
Did he have his, when the plainclothes officer arrived, did he have his gun out as those two were talking, as they approached each other?
Say that again.
As Cory and the officer approached each other, did he have his gun out at that time?
Say that again.
Did he have his gun out at the time that they approached? The police are saying that he was armed when he had a confrontation with the officer.
From what we understand, he was in the car when the police first pulled up. And so we don't know all that information. And again, we don't have Cory's version. So
you know what's also important about that too is the fact that if Cory had his gun, now he never made any type of offensive action toward the officer with the gun. He was just arming himself. And so this officer has time to pull his gun and shoot him 6 times. And so the problem though is that the officer never had a badge to identify himself. I mean, if you're an officer, you need to identify yourself 4 in the morning on the side of the road, period.
What was the confrontation?
And you got to remember, one of you asked it, and it can't be stated enough, Cory Jones never fired his weapon. Never fired his weapon. That is confirmed. The officer fired 6 times. It's very troubling on many, many levels why he felt the need to shoot Cory those many times. And Cory didn't feel the need to ever pull his trigger to shoot at the cop.
So one thing, can you describe at all what you were told from the officer, what the officer's statement was about that confrontation? And also, you mentioned the body was found 80 to 90 feet from the car. Was the gun also found 80 to 90
No,
feet?
the body was found 80 to 100 feet. They're not accurate on the measurement at this time, how far from the car, but the gun was found somewhere in between his body and the car. They weren't accurate on the measurement of that either.
And what about the confrontation? Can you give any details about the confrontation?
That's all confusing to everybody.
All right, thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
See you back at the office.